Hi, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about 7.2, which is complementary and supplementary angles. So before we start, please make sure that you have your math composition notebook out and that you are writing down everything that is on my screen in your notebook. So let's start with the learning target. The learning target today is I will be able to classify angles as complementary or supplementary. Okay? So make sure you have that down and let's get started. So complementary angles, you are going to want to write this down. Complementary angles are when the sum of their measures add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so make sure you have that. And a way you can remember it is think about if somebody gives you a compliment. If somebody gives you a compliment, you know you're doing something right, right? And a right angle is 90 degrees. Okay, so think if someone compliments your hair, you know you're doing something right. So therefore, it adds up to 90 degrees. So that's a helpful way to try to remember complementary angles. Supplementary angles are when the sum of their measures add up to 180. Okay, so supplementary is always going to be a straight line because remember, a straight line is always going to be 180 degrees. Okay, so that's going to be supplementary angles. So make sure that you remember that, and let's look at a couple examples. So it says, tell whether the angles are complementary, supplementary, or neither. So let's just refresh our memory. Complementary, if someone gives me a compliment, I'm doing something right. So these are going to add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary is going to add up to 180 degrees. And neither would just be it's not 90 degrees or 180 degrees. So all we're going to do to figure out if they're complementary, supplementary, or neither is just add the angles. So all you need to show on your work for the big ideas assignment is 70 degrees plus 110 degrees equals. So 70 plus 110, that equals 180 degrees. So therefore, I know supplementary angles are 180 degrees. So therefore, I know that those two angles are supplementary angles. Okay? So that's the first one. B, we're going to do 49 degrees plus 41 degrees. And 49 plus 41, that gives me 90 degrees. And remember, 90 degrees is complementary angles. So I'm going to write complementary angles. Okay, and then finally, the last example, I'm going to take those two angles, 128 degrees plus 62 degrees, and see what that equals. 128 plus 62, that equals 190 degrees. Okay, is that 180 degrees? No. And is that 90 degrees? No. So therefore, this is neither. Okay, so if it's not 90 or 180, it's going to be neither. Okay, so that's how we classify pairs of angles. All right, we literally just add up the angles and to know whether they're 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and then we can classify them. So make sure you have that down, and I want you to try it now on your own. So tell whether the angles are complementary, supplementary, or neither. So once you have the answer for 1 and 2, click your answer, and then I'll go over it. Okay, so remember, all we're going to do is just add up these angles to see what they add up to. So 26 degrees plus 64 degrees gives me 90 degrees. Okay, therefore, since it's 90 degrees, that is going to be a complementary angle for number 1. And then over here, we add up these 44 degrees plus 136 degrees. 44 plus 136 equals 180 degrees, which remember, that is going to mean supplementary. All right, so you should have gotten complementary for the first one and supplementary for the second one. All right, let's look at example 2. So the second part, once we know how to identify angles as either complementary or supplementary, then we're going to talk about finding the value of x. So say we don't know what some of the angles are, we're going to use our algebra skills to help us. So first we need to tell whether the angles are complementary or supplementary. So remember, complementary means you're doing something right, which means it's a right angle, which means it should have this little box in the corner right here like that. That means it's a right angle. Okay, and remember, if it's a right angle, if you're doing something right, it adds up to 90 degrees. So our setup with this is going to be, well, I know that this angle plus this angle is going to equal 90 degrees, right? Because they are within that right angle. So in order to find the value of x, I'm going to set it up as 90 degrees equals, and then these two angles added together. So I have 4x plus 36. Okay, so now this goes back to our earlier chapters where you solve two-step equations. So first I want to deal with the stuff that's not attached to the variable. So I'm going to subtract 36 from both sides. That's going to cancel. I'm going to be left with 4x equals, and then 90 minus 36 gives me 54 degrees. And then to isolate the x, I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And that is going to give me x equals 13.5. Okay, so that is the value of x. Then remember, if you want to check your work, okay, check your work to see if you're actually right. You just need to type in 4 times 13.5. And what does that equal? 4 times 13.5. That equals 54. And then you need to make sure that when you add 54 and 36, that it actually equals 90. And this is your check. Well, this does equal 90, so therefore I know that that is the correct answer. Okay? So now let's look at example B. So example B, these two angles lie on a straight line. And remember, a straight line is equal to 180 degrees. Okay? And remember, that is defined as supplementary angles, angles that add up to 180 degrees. So again, we're going to do a similar setup. Since I know this angle plus this angle equals 180 degrees. So I'm going to set it up as 180 degrees equals x plus x minus 4 degrees. Okay. So now remember our talk on like terms. Like terms have the same variable raised to the same exponent. So right away, I can identify that this is a like term and this is a like term. Well, if I have an x plus an x, well, if there's no number in front of it, I can assume it's a 1. So 1x plus 1x, that's going to give me 2x. So I'm going to combine those, and then I'm left with a minus 4. Okay, so the first step is just combine your like terms and simplify it down. Now it's just a two-step equation. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And that's going to give me 2x equals, oops, that looks like a 9. That's a 4 though. 184. Then my last step is going to be to divide by 2. And that is going to give me x equals 92 degrees. 92 degrees is my x. Then again, you want to check your work. So this is just x, so we plug in the x value for that, 92 degrees. Then this is x minus 4, so we're going to go 92 degrees minus 4. That's going to give me 88 degrees. Add those together and make sure that they equal 180. So 92 plus 88. That does equal 180 degrees. So therefore, I know that the x value that I found is correct. Okay? So pretty much we're using what we learned about complementary and supplementary angles to just set up our algebra equations and do what we know. Okay, and then finally, I want us to look at constructing angles.